This is the Outlap F1 podcast featuring America's own Cody, Andy, and Deanna. Your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. Join us on the Outlap. I think the saying sometimes in baseball is let's play two. Well, this weekend, if you are an open wheel racing fan, we got to. Welcome on in. This is season 7. This is episode number 15. It's our 2025 Monaco GP preview, as well as we're going to talk a little bit about the Indy 500 because the drama over in Indianapolis right now is dripping, and we have to talk about it. But you've got Andy, a rejuvenated Andy, and I'm along with Cody tonight. It's good to see you again, sir. How's it hanging? It's still not warm here in Chicago. I don't understand. It's late May. We've had like one day where it got hot, and then it got stormy, and now it's cold again. I don't get it.
Yeah, such as life in Chicago. You get trick summer. You go back to spring for a little while before you get real brutal summer. I also like your reference there. That's a good quote from Ernie Banks from the Cubs.
Yep.
It's a beautiful day to play baseball. Let's play two. And yeah, this is going to be our big racing extravaganza. In fact, if you're really a big fan, there's actually 3. I believe they're still doing Coca-Cola 600 on the same day.
If you want to go over to stream on Amazon Prime, you can go watch the Coca-Cola 600, and you can do, I think it is 13 consecutive hours of motorsport if you're so inclined.
My wife would be so happy.
I think the most I ever did at this day was like 10. I had to take a break in the middle of the NASCAR just because it was too much. But it's like one into the other, assuming no rain. So as long as that's the case, we should be good to go. But welcome on in. Just a little bit of a health update on me. I'm continuing to get better. The treatment so far is continuing to hold. I was telling Cody, I think today was the closest I felt to normal since this entire thing began. So again, thank you, as I said before, to the staff and nurses at Advocate Grace Medical Center for getting me, catching me back up and getting me back on my way. I've been able to kind of get back to work, and we're able to do a regularly scheduled preview. At the time, we're doing a preview. So 1 week on from last week, it's a very, very different reality for me. So just going to continue to hopefully hope that everything continues to stay the course and things continue to get better. So that's what we're going for. So if you have found our show, welcome along. As always, you can find us. Blue Sky, we are over there. X, we continue to post content over there as well. Instagram, Discord, sometimes Reddit. And also, of course, here on YouTube, at Outlap F1 Podcast is the handle for all of that. If you enjoy what you're watching and you like what you're hearing, you can do us a solid. Click the like and subscribe button on your YouTube. Or if you're on your favorite podcasting app, a 5-star review will help us come up a little bit better in F1-related search results, which is basically all why anybody tells you to do that kind of stuff. But just did take a look at some of the numbers on YouTube from our last video. A lot of people have checked this out. So if you've enjoyed that, welcome along. We're glad you're here. We hope you stick around. This is what we do. We like to talk F1 racing, all sorts of different stuff. So welcome on board. Welcome to the nation, folks. You can email the show, as always, outlapf1@gmail.com. We'll get your comments to us. Thank you so much to our continued supporters, including Gene Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, and of course, Jonathan Scott. If you'd like to become a member of that fully fledged member of the hashtag OutlapF1 Nation, get your name on a shout out at the beginning of each episode. There is a small little monetary cost that we ask for to do that. It's our anchor page. We ask for a small little donation, $1, $5, whatever you're comfortable giving. The only reason for that is so that we can keep our technology relevant, maintain this lovely recording platform, and all that other good stuff. So enough of the self plugs. You can always find that link in our show notes, and that takes care of the particulars. All right. So since we did not get a chance to do this last week because I was a little bit under the weather and a little bit indisposed, we had a whole heap of F1 drama. There's not so much this week. This week, it's all on the IndyCar side of the pond, where it's just dripping and it's drenched, and we want to be done with it. And the word attenuator is the reporters in the paddock don't want to even talk about the word anymore. But what happened with respect to the Alpine team needs some attention, and we didn't get a chance to really talk about this. So the big story that broke what was we were all kind of expecting it, especially given the emotional reaction that Jack Doohan had after his qualifying effort in the sprint qualifying and some of it in the main qualifying in Miami. He is now out of the seat. Franco Colapinto, the Argentinian young superstar, very highly rated driver, is now in the seat, apparently for the next 5 races. So Master Flavio Briatore is doing his best Hunger Games impersonation and has now put their 2 young drivers at war with each other to try to see which one is going to come out on top. I would say right now it's basically a 0-0 tie because I don't think Colapinto had a great first debut in Imola. Nothing to necessarily outshine anything Doohan had done or not done at this point. So that's one story. And if you wanted more Alpine drama, here's more for you. Their former team principal. Why did I say Flavio Briatore? He's not the team principal. Ollie Oakes was the team principal. Wrong. Ollie Oakes is out at Alpine after a shock resignation. It's not necessarily related to the Colapinto versus Doohan thing, according to a lot of the Alpine sources that I've read about this. There is a bit of an unrelated story, whether or not he's supporting his family at this point or specifically supporting his brother. His brother got arrested trying to leave the UK with a substantial amount of cash. And you're only allowed to take certain amount of cash with you when you travel internationally. It's kind of an international rule. I want to say it's like the equivalent of like 10,000 US dollars. He was found trying to board a plane for Qatar with approximately 25,000 British pounds on him. His brother, I forget what the name is, but his brother, who is also a director of the high-tech F1 or F2 team, high-tech, who had put in a bid to be the 11th F1 team opposite the Andretti Global bid when the FIA was doing the tender stuff. So what exactly the situation is or why Ollie Oakes suddenly chose to resign, Flavio Briatore has come out and said that it's not anything related to Alpine business. Okay, let's take that at face value. His brother having now some legal situations is kind of an interesting thing. But Oliver also has flown to Qatar, which is interesting because Qatar doesn't have any sort of a swap agreement with the UK on criminals or anything like that. So it's a bit of a haven for him. So there's a lot of unknowns. I don't want to throw shade or accusations or anything around. There's a lot of hearsay and conjecture, which is Lionel Hutz from The Simpsons used to say, those are kinds of evidence, but they're not actual evidence. So we don't really know a whole lot at this point. But that's kind of the extent of what we know. But Cody, what's your take on all of this Alpine drama, man? Woo!
Well, the Oliver Oakes thing with his brother is very strange, and yeah, going out to Qatar right after resigning from your post is a little strange, given what you said about Qatar not having an extradition treaty. It's all very questionable, but we don't, like you said, we don't really have enough evidence to throw accusations around or anything like that. Whatever it is, I think they'll just have to sort through it and figure it out, and we'll hear more as it comes out. But it is unfortunate that Oliver Oakes is leaving Alpine after he's only been there not very long, less than a year, I believe.
Yep. That's like
So
the third one in 2.5 years.
exactly, yeah, they are on the rotation for team principals over there at Alpine, and they haven't gotten someone like really to properly fill that role at the moment, which is why Flavio Briatore has assumed those team principal responsibilities for the time being. I, from what I understand, it isn't the intention for him to permanently assume those team principal responsibilities. So they just have to find someone they will like to fill that post. He's just taking care of things for the time being, which is really weird how things come around. We've gone from Flavio Briatore being a high and mighty successful team principal to being kicked out of F1 indefinitely to kind of coming back as a Alpine.
He was a manager. He was
Yeah,
Fernando Alonso's manager,
yeah.
getting him all
And
those
now he's back
contracts.
as a team principal after all this time. So
Yeah,
it's very strange. But I guess more power to him. We'll just have to see what he does. More on the driver side of things. I do think it's pretty brutal to not give doing more time in the car. It's we've seen time and time again that it takes a long time, pretty much like a full season at least, to get used to an F1 car and everything that comes with driving an F1. I mean, look at our current points leader, Oscar Piastri. He didn't have like the greatest, flashy breakout year in F1 his first season. He did fine. But it's taken him some time to really get in the groove, and now he looks great and fantastic. And I think that the amount of time that Doohan was in the car is truly not enough to show your stuff. Um, these teams, they seem like, Red Bull too, they seem like they want like instant results. And unless you get someone who's, truly like the cream of the crop, uh, that's not going to happen. So I do feel bad for him, but it does look like they've given the same deal to Colapinto now, because he's supposedly only in on a 5-race contract as well. And yeah, I like what you said, that it's kind of like they're almost throwing him in the pit to duke it out with each other. Who's going to come out on top. Uh, Obviously they seem to be happy having Gasly in his seat, so it's not his spot isn't under threat or anything. It's really up to who fills in that second seat. And Col, since we're coming out with the story a little late, Colapinto did have his first race for Alpine in Imola, and it did not go fantastic. So anyone who thought he was going to come out screaming like he did when he was, in at Williams last year, it hasn't happened yet. So we're gonna throw him at Monaco, which is notoriously difficult to make it to the end and put in a good lap without crashing your car. So hopefully he can keep it on the track.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see exactly, because Monaco, like you said, it's millimetric perfect, and if it's not, you're in the wall. And um, with 6 rookies, I would be shocked if we don't see some cars in the wall coming up this weekend. But yeah, I mean, it's just well, actually, you know what? We're gonna go to our question. Dave Doherty, who asked us, and we didn't get a chance to address it last week. He had a question about the whole Alpine saga, and he was like, can Alpine move forward this season? We saw the drivers change, which is a bit like Red Bull. I hope this doesn't become a copy and paste for the other teams when they have issues with the drivers. But Colapinto was good last season, and can this improve any results of bringing Colapinto to Alpine? And what are our thoughts on that? I think we just kind of answered that. Um, I still think he's going to be a rookie. He's still going to make mistakes. I think you're going to see a lot of the same thing. And I think the fact of the matter is that car is not great. It's the same situation that he kind of had at Williams, where the car just isn't great. And you feel bad for a young driver. This was the same thing we used to say about Logan Sargent all the time. And maybe he was more worthy of criticism because, he would crash the car every other week. But still, that car was not going to be an easy thing to drive. The Alpine is clearly not an easy car to drive. It has a very narrow operating window. Now, have they found some times where they've gotten the car in the window? Yes, especially over one lap. Has Gasly done some great qualifying efforts? Yes. So there is potential in that car, but it needs an experience. It seems like it needs an experienced hand, not a rookie driver, to try to get the best out of that car. So right now, you've really only got Gasly being the only point scorer with any consistency for that team. So yeah, it's a tough situation for Franco. And he's got a legion of fans. His fans have high expectations. They're going to put a ton of pressure on that team. We've already seen it, just in the one weekend. So yeah, if you're going to set it up this way, Flavio, I hope you like what you're going to get. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, it is definitely tough on that second seat because, as you said, the Alpine is not right now. It's not a great car. It's getting points pretty much on opportunities that don't come around very often. The only real metric they're being measured up against right now is their teammate, Gasly. And Gasly at this point is a very experienced Formula One driver, and he's even got a few years in that Alpine seat. So it's not really the fairest of comparisons, I think. Yeah, I definitely think that what they should have done is, if they were even really considering doing this Colapinto thing, they probably shouldn't have signed Doohan in the first place, because if you're not going to give him a full season to get used to it, like, you shouldn't sign him in the first place and do what they've done to him, which is pretty much as soon as he's in the seat, you're pretty much breathing down his neck, being like, "You've only got a few races to prove yourself," and that's got to be a ton of stress on him. So it's really too bad the way things have gone. And if he doesn't, if Colapinto pulls it together and Doohan doesn't get another shot in the Alpine seat, it could very well be the end of his Formula One career, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, that would be unfortunate for a guy who was the one of the cream of the crop upcoming in F2. It feels like they just took him out with, maybe he just needed one more year of seasoning, could have competed probably for the championship easily this year in F2, in talking about doing, and Colapinto for that matter, too. Both of them probably could have done with an additional year of seasoning and just race experience. And the other thing is, none of these guys have gone to tracks where they've raced at, other than Bahrain and maybe Australia. But that was the one off year that F2 went there. These guys are they're on tracks that they don't know. So you add to that, and it's just I don't see how it gets good. I do think what's going to happen is I think Colapinto's going to look better because he's going to be at tracks he's going to be more familiar with. Monaco, F2 races there. Spain, everybody races there. You start in the European season proper, everybody races at those places. So I have a funny feeling it's going to come out in Colapinto's favor at the end of the day, but it's probably going to be more on he's going to get better tracks than Doohan did, and which is going to suck if you're a Jack Doohan fan. That's all I got to say about it. But anyway, so focusing in on the Monaco GP weekend a little bit here. One of the things that it's going to be a talking point, we've mentioned it when the rule came out. Monaco this year is going to have a mandatory 2-stop rule. That's one. The other thing, we didn't get a chance to talk about this either. C6 compound of tires, the same ones we saw in Imola, the same ones we saw basically do one lap and kind of give up in Imola, are going to be available as more than likely your qualifying tire. We've seen multiple attempts on the C5s be totally fine in qualifying before. Monaco's probably the easiest place on a tire compound that you have, which is probably why they're going with the C6. So that makes sense. Do you think, Cody, we're going to see some weird, like lap one, do the formation lap and duck into the pits and get off the tire type of situation? Or are we going to actually see what they want, which is run 10, 12 laps, stop, do a pit stop cycle, run 20, 30 laps, stop, do another pit stop cycle? Because there's lots of ways I think these teams are going to game it. What do you think?
I think the way that Pirelli is hoping this is going to play out is like you said, which is since you have to do 2 stops, they're hoping that most teams are going to do, a significant portion of the race on a set of tires, knowing that they have to take 2 stops, though, that'll allow them to actually push harder on the tires, use them up, be a little more aggressive throughout the tire stint and then put on new tires. Without a doubt, though, I think you're going to see anyone who's at the back try something crazy where, they put on like the C6s for a lap. They come in, they switch over to something more durable. And if the opportunity presents itself, that'll allow them to, say if there's like a safety car and everyone else comes in to do their first pit stop, those drivers can go right to the front. It's kind of always been a strategy is to pit really early and just kind of see what happens with, a safety car, if you can recover from that and the like. And Monaco definitely has its fair share of safety cars, red flag, all that. Now, something that I'm actually not sure on because I haven't read into the specifics of this, is it for the mandatory 2 stops, do they have to be like actual like on race stops, or if there's a red flag, does that count as one of your stops still?
That's a good question.
Because I'm not 100% sure on that. If it was, because
I believe they have to be 2 live stops.
Okay,
That's what I think the rule is. Certainly, that's what the intent of the rule is.
okay.
I don't think you're going to get to go around it by swapping tires under a red flag. I
Normally
don't.
that is kosher.
Right.
So it's,
I mean,
but this is a kind of a one-off thing that they're
well,
doing here anyway. So I wasn't
you know
sure.
what? You probably stumped me on that one because I didn't know that. I will look it up, and we'll probably put a little thing under our episode about this is actually what the rule is once I can actually get a chance to break out the rule book and find it. But I would imagine, I don't think the question is, how is the rule worded? If the rule is worded where like you have to run two different compounds, that's not two stops. If the rule is worded to where you have to stop twice, and they don't care what compounds you do, and you just have to do one switcheroo of compounds, like you could go medium, medium, hard. Okay, well then that's based on the number of stops, not necessarily based on the compounds that you're running. So
So just taking a quick look here. It's from what it says here, all drivers will be required to make at least 2 pit stops. So it's not driving on 2 different compounds, that they have to make 2 pit stops, and it would apply to both wet and dry conditions,
okay,
which is kind of
so
interesting.
so they've done it with, they want your car in the pit lane to stop twice. So you're only good if you actually run your car through the pit lane and you stop twice, and you can't get around it with a red flag then. So okay, that answers the question, because it was all going to be about what how are they enforcing it? Because if they're enforcing it based on tire compounds, you could easily game that. And if they were enforcing it based on stopping, you, the off strategy that I heard was, you do your lap one, you come in at the end of lap one, that counts as your stop. You put on a set of, like, you start with a C6, you then go on to a C5 medium, you run your 20, 30 normal laps that you always do, and you basically turn it into a Monaco one stop in terms of tire life, because then you would go to a C4 hard at the end there. But you've done your 2 stops. So we're going to
Although
see.
I guess I might even be a little wrong on this, because just taking a quick at what Sky Sports has to say on it, it says that apparently the rule says that they need to run 3 sets of tires. So
Okay. So
3 sets of tires with at least 2 different compounds, so they don't have to
so
run all 3 compounds.
we're doing the whole Sky Sports thing where we don't know what the freaking rules are.
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
exactly.
yeah, well, then we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this episode. Well, okay, we're gonna find out how this is
Yeah,
gonna
we're
work.
throwing a wrench
It's
in it.
it's the first time that they've done this, so obviously we are definitely going into the unknown. We're going to discover what the actual application of the rule is probably when we get there, and don't think that we're going to be the only ones who are going to be confused. I guarantee you, David Croft is going to get confused by this. So I don't feel quite so bad. But anyway, we'll leave that there. But look out for special, interesting strategies potentially in the race on Sunday. It's interesting, though, that they've started to go down the rabbit hole of Monaco the way that it is doesn't work. I've already said my piece on my extreme view, which is Monaco spec car, one time, one off thing. Make it a spec car, put special liveries on it, let the drivers go driving, and either make it a points race or a non-points race, and make it something for charity. Make it like an all-star race. Put a £1,000,000 prize up, and let everybody just go racing around those principality, because then everyone would have fun, no one would care, and people would watch, and it'd be entertaining as hell. But anyway, what the hell do I know? All right. Next story. Of course, it's Monaco, and of course, McLaren do their thing and reveal their first specialty livery of the season for Monaco and for Spain. I've gotten a chance to look at it. It's not quite the baby blue from a few years ago that I fell in love with, but it's decent. It's definitely a little more papaya, less black. I like the numbering with the circle and the number inside of the circles. I would expect to see a lot of special helmets from other teams as well as McLaren this weekend. So yeah, nice livery. I thought it was pretty cool. What'd you think?
I think it looks pretty cool. Again, I don't think it looks as cool as the Gulf McLaren livery that we saw there a few years ago. That was like, so nice. We even got hats for it.
I have hats, I have pictures, I have specialty images of that car all over my apartment because it was just so iconic.
Mm-hmm. I definitely I like the fun of doing special liveries, though. I guess I don't know if they're really doing like a full on special livery for it, but from what I've seen, I guess Ferrari is doing special suits for this weekend as well. So it's possible we might even see some more special liveries
Oh,
come
I
out in
have a
the
funny
coming
feeling.
days.
Oh, for sure. Would not be surprised if we see more. Um, Last story before we hop into our Grand Prix weekend proper. I did see a story that said all the drivers were invited to a special screening of the F1 movie, which comes out in late June here in the US. Apparently, the advanced ticket sales that you could get are through the roof. They've opened up another block of them. See the F1 site if you are so interested in something like that. I'm going to propose now, Cody, that we go sometime on that opening weekend and do a live shot of us going in to go watch it, because I think it'd be pretty cool, and then we could talk about it that weekend or something like that. But
I would definitely be down for that. I was gonna probably go see it anyway. To be fair, I'm not a huge Brad Pitt guy, but it's a Formula One movie, and not
yeah,
only that, it's a modern Formula One movie with really cool special effects. And I do have to say, I've watched that first teaser preview that came out a few times, and that the last part of the preview where they've got the Queen guitar solo going as they're like
yep.
accelerating through Silverstone. That kind of got my heart going a little bit. So just based on that alone, I would be going to see it.
Oh yeah, I think it would be I think it's going to be a fun thing. I would nerd out like I always do, even with bad racing movies, even with a movie like Driven, which is a terrible movie. Um, I geeked out so much more as figuring out what track they were at, where was this filmed, and kind of when was it filmed, type of thing. So that would be the same thing I would do here. I'm like, oh well, that's clearly Monaco, or that's clearly Spain, or that was at Coda and we saw that, damn it. Or this is the scene that was in Vegas that everybody put on, where the guy falls over into the mattress and he's fine, but so we're gonna have fun with this. I want to have fun with this thing when it comes out. So we'll try to do something special. Look for us kind of a little bit on social media when we go get ready to do our own little Outlap F1 podcast field trip to the F1 movie.
Awesome.
All right. I actually think we're talked just about long enough here in the news. We got everybody kind of caught up. So we're actually going to take a break here. We're going to we'll come back. We'll drop our green flag. We'll do our Monaco track facts and preview. We'll talk a little bit about the weather. We'll do our predictions. And then we got to talk a little bit about IndyCar, because like I said before, the drama is so much. There are people getting fired left, right, and center. There's cars getting disqualified, kicked out of qualifying, put to the back, all over the place. And meanwhile, you've got a rookie on pole who should be the sole story of the week, and I feel like he's getting robbed because somebody kind of sort of did something stupid. So anyway, we'll get into all that and we'll talk about it. So come on back. We'll hop into it. You are listening to the Outlap F1 podcast, and we'll be right back after this quick pit stop. Grab your flu powder, broomstick, or apparate to your favorite audio streaming service to join the discussion on Hogwarts, a podcast, where Dan and his friends have in-depth chapter-by-chapter breakdowns of each Harry Potter novel. Join the group as they dive into the magical world and discuss plot points, analyze character development, and occasionally go off the rails. Whether you're a muggle who's new to the series or a pure-blood wizard who won't need a remember-all, Hogwarts, a podcast, brings everyone to the Great Hall for a magical discussion. Hogwarts, a podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. Some it's the Super Bowl is the best sporting weekend. For motor racing fans, I think it's this weekend. It's the 2025 Monaco/Indy 500 preview show. You've got Andy and I'm along with Cody tonight. And we're going to talk about Monaco first and foremost, because we are the Outlap F1 podcast, of course, first and foremost. But we're definitely going to throw a little bit of love towards IndyCar's way and talk about the craziness of what's been going on in Indianapolis over the last 4 days. So we'll start, as we are always apt to do, with our Monaco drag facts. They are brought to us by the good folks at Pirelli Motorsport. So, Cody, tell us about the Circuit de Monaco.
All right. This weekend, Formula One heads to Monaco for the Monaco Grand Prix, which drives around the Circuit de Monaco, located in Monte Carlo in the Principality of, guess what, Monaco. And yes, they do race around pretty much the whole city of Monte Carlo. Number of laps for this Grand Prix is going to be 78, and the length of the circuit is 3.337 kilometers. That's 2.073 miles. It is the shortest track length on the F1 calendar. The tire selection from Pirelli for this race is going to be the softest they have on offer. That's the C4, the C5, and that new C6 tire compound. And the track characteristics from Pirelli are a 5 out of 5 for traction, a 2 out of 5 for braking, a 1 out of 5 for lateral load, 1 out of 5 for tire stress, 5 out of 5 for track evolution, a 1 out of 5 for asphalt grip, a 1 out of 5 for asphalt abrasion, and a 5 out of 5 for downforce. The qualifying lap record under the current configuration of the track is going to go to Lewis Hamilton, set in 2019 with the Mercedes. Probably could have gone faster in 2020 had they raced there that year, but that qualifying lap record is a 1 minute 10.166 seconds. The race lap record was also set by Lewis Hamilton a couple years later in 2021, and that was with a 1 minute 12.909 seconds. Most wins by a driver around Monaco is going to go to Ayrton Senna, who got a whopping 6 wins here, I believe 5 of which were consecutive, so very incredible achievement from him. But there's a couple other drivers that had a whopping amount of wins here. Number 2 is a tie between Graham Hill and Michael Schumacher, so 2 very opposite ends of the Formula One world, with 5 wins apiece. Alan Prost has had 4 here, and then Sterling Moss, Jackie Stewart, Nico Rosberg, and Lewis Hamilton have all had 3 wins here. The most constructor wins here is going to go to McLaren with 15, followed by Ferrari with 11, the latest of which was done by Charles Leclerc last year. Mercedes is in 3rd with 8th. Lotus, I believe the old Lotus, with 7 wins here in 4th, and then BRM in 5th with 5 wins. What's the circuit like, Andy?
All right, so it is incredibly narrow, and of course, it's totally iconic. Nelson Piquet memorably described driving around Monaco as, quote, like riding a bicycle around your living room, which is pretty fair. Despite that, it's a challenge that nearly all drivers love, forcing them to put their skills on the line and rewarding millimetric accuracy. Overtaking on the tight streets is very hard, however, with the 2003 Grand Prix witnessing a grand total of 0 passing moves. And they didn't show Lance Stroll during that time either. As for the weather, which always plays a factor on a Monaco weekend, qualifying, which is appointment television, there's a chance of a shower or 2 in the morning, followed by partly cloudy skies in the afternoon, so it probably should be dry. High of 67 Fahrenheit, so a little bit on the cool side, so those tires are going to be right in their operating window. They're going to love it. Winds out of the southeast at 5 to 10, only a 30% chance of rain. And as for the race on Sunday, intervals of clouds and sunshine, high around 70. Again, this is like right down the middle conditions, man. Winds out of the southeast at 5 to 10. Almost no chance of rain for the race on Sunday. All right. So, yeah, I mean, you look around the circuit layout, it's the iconic circuit. It has not changed in a ton of years. You know the corners more by their names than by their turn numbers. The scant only one DRS zone as they go into the Sandoval corner, or AKA turn 1. All right. So now we will turn our attention to what we think is going to happen over the course of the Monaco GP weekend. It's our Choose Your Champion predictions game. And we will start, as we are always have to do, with the pole sitter. This one could be spicy. There could be maybe 4 or 5 guys who could possibly snatch this because of the nature of the circuit and the nature of these cars. But Cody, what you got here?
I think we're going to see another miracle pole from Max Verstappen. He did put on one of the best qualifying laps that we've ever seen around Monaco just a couple of years ago. He seems to be starting to hit his stride, and going off of Imola, fingers crossed, maybe Red Bull is starting to hit some kind of stride as well. He does go well here. He is known for pushing the limit. I think Max Verstappen has a great chance of setting the pole.
All right, very good. I'm going to roll, and I'm going to say pissed off Oscar Piastri is going to be a thing because I saw his look in the cool-down room, and if he could have shot that camera guy with daggers while he was sitting there watching the race start where he lost the lead, I think he would have done so. So I think when this guy gets challenged, I think that's when his really good stuff comes out. We saw it before. We saw it after Australia, but pissed off Piastri being a thing, and then he went and dominated the Chinese GP in that one. So I'm going to say pissed off Piastri going to be the thing. He's going to take the pole. He damn near got it last year. Leclerc just had an outstanding lap that took it from him right at the end. So I'm going to go Oscar Piastri for pole here in Monaco. All right. So our 2024 qualifying pole lap was a 110.270 set by that aforementioned Charles Leclerc. If anything goes a lot faster, we're probably going to have a track record. What do we think is going to happen here, Cody? What's your thought?
I do think we're going to get a new lap record here. It looks like the weather is going to hold up, which would be the main thing that would throw a wrench in that. And last year, Charles Leclerc actually did get very close to the qualifying lap record. I think he was only about a tenth of a second away. And we've been seeing these cars compared to last year have been going sometimes as much as like half a second faster at some tracks. I don't think they're going to be quite that improved here, just due to the nature of it being a tight and difficult track. But I do think we're going to see that new lap record. So I'm going with a 1 minute, 9 seconds, 0.924.
All right, very good. I am in agreement with you that I do think we will see a new lap record, simply because we've got a new softer compounded tire. The conditions are going to be right in the ideal window. There's not going to be a lot of wind. It's going to screen speed, and whoever, as long as they keep it out of the wall, I think it's going to be really fast, especially as it ramps up for Q3. I don't think you're going to see it in Q1. I don't think you're going to see it in Q2, but come Q3, I think you're going to see some special stuff going on. So I've got a 109.857, a little bit faster than you. Normally, I'm always the slower one, but I'm going to go a little bit faster than you on that one and say, yeah, we're going to see a new track record for sure. All right. So turning into the race on Sunday, our 2024 podium saw Charles Leclerc take the ridiculously popular home win, the first Monegasque driver ever to win around the streets of the Principality there. Oscar Piastri did come home in second, and Carlos Sainz did come home for third for the Ferrari. A Ferrari 1-3 on the weekend. Cody, what's your thought here on the podium?
Even with the new two-stop rule, I do think that it's going to be somewhat processional throughout most parts of the race. I do think that pole position is still going to be wildly favored to win the race. And since I've got Max Verstappen taking pole position, I've also got Max Verstappen taking the win. I do have angry Oscar Piastri as a thing, and I have him coming in P2. And then I've got George Russell wrapping up the podium.
All right, very good. I'm going to go full on Homer mode because why the hell not? McLaren haven't won around here in a long time. I think this is their best shot in forever to do it. I already said pissed off Piastri for the pole, so I'm going to stick with that for the race win. I'm going to say Lando Norris. They make it the 1-2. I don't think they're actually going to race each other, but it may come to that. Who knows? Maybe we'll see some fireworks there. And Max Verstappen's not going anywhere, folks. Don't think about it for a minute. He's going to be right on, I think, Lando's tail, putting pressure on him. It's going to be a nerve-wracking fucking watch for the whole for the whole hour and a half. So that's my podium. I got Piastri 1, Norris 2, Verstappen 3, and an incredibly tight top 3. All right, so turning our attention to the fastest lap and the driver who's going to do that fastest lap. Last year's fastest lap was 1:14.165, set by Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes. Let's not forget that. So, Cody, what's your thought? Who's going to do the fastest lap, and what time do you have him doing it?
I guess I am going full fanboy this weekend because so far I've got Verstappen for pole, Verstappen for win, and I've got Verstappen for fastest lap as well. Also with, I believe, what would amount to be a new track record for the race. I've got him doing it with a 1 minute, 12.801 seconds.
All right, very good. I do think I like Max Verstappen for fastest lap, especially if he comes out of the pits and he's a little bit behind and he's got some clean air. I think he's going to get right onto the back of somebody really, really, really fast. And Max is just a king of that type of thing. So I don't have him quite as fast as you. I've got a 1:13.689, but I do agree. I think Max Verstappen will take the fastest lap. All right. So for bonus picks, you've selected P5, P10, and P15. And oh, by the way, we're tied in our predictions competition, by the way. So we haven't had a chance to do a tiebreaker. So this will hopefully get us a real result here. I'm going to go first on this one. So I've got P5. I've got Lewis Hamilton coming home for Ferrari in P5 because I think somehow, some way that race pace is going to work. I hope they do it well enough in qualifying to get up there. As long as they can start decently, I think their race pace will get them into the top 5. So Ferrari, I do have P5 there. P10, Yuki Tsunoda. This is just where I think he's not P11 Yuki this time. He's P10 Yuki this year, especially since the move over to Red Bull. And P15, somebody's got to finish back in the field, and I'm going to give this one to Lance Stroll. I do think that the Aston Martin qualifying pace is probably a little bit better, but something seems to always happen to these guys in the race. They had great qualifying last week and then they fell back. So whether or not it's self-inflicted because he's Lance Stroll, we'll find out, but I've got him coming home in P15. Cody, what's your thought here for bonus picks?
I've got Kimi Antonelli showing pretty well in his first Monaco Grand Prix weekend. I've got him coming in P5. Isaac Hadjar has continued to impress in the V-Carb car, and he has been flirting around those kind of end of the points or just outside of the points positions. So I've got him taking a point in P10 this weekend. And then lastly, I think we're going to see a rough one for Alpine here. I think they're probably going to have a hard time qualifying, and because of that, they're going to have a hard time moving up the field because it is still Monaco. So I've got Pierre Gasly coming in P15.
All right. Very good. All right. So for our prop bet, I like this one. I think it's appropriate, especially with 6 rookies on the grid. Will we see a red flag in qualifying? And then I like your second one. Will it affect our potential tee time? Because we do have a tentative golf plans, at least tentative for me. Everybody else I know is going golfing. I may go to watch, depending on how I'm feeling. But will it affect the tee time? I'm going to say that yes, I think for sure we're going to at least see one red flag. With 6 rookies, it's almost impossible to not see that. Somebody's going to bin it. If they get through it and they somehow don't, then congratulations. These guys are really good drivers, and I'll tip my cap to them and respect them tremendously for doing so. But I do think somebody's going to cause a kerfuffle in the qualifying sessions. But I don't think it's going to affect our tee time. I think we've given ourselves enough of a buffer zone to where we should be okay. Hopefully I don't have to go screaming down, was it I-88 to get out to you guys on time. But Cody, what's your thought here in the prop bet?
You have the car to scream all the way out here if you need to.
Yeah, but there's going to be a lot of law out. I don't want to run afoul of, I don't need any other drama in my life. Thank you.
Yeah, that is true. It is for anyone watching abroad, this is a 3-day weekend for us. It is Memorial Day weekend. I do think there is going to be a red flag. There's been a lot of red flags in qualifying in Monaco over these last few years when there hasn't been 6 rookies on the grid. So I think that just ups the chances. I do think we're going to see that red flag on Saturday. Fingers crossed. I don't think it's going to affect our plans for the day, though. We've included a buffer zone for multiple red flags, so I think we should be good to go.
I love the fact that now I'm not the only one that has to put F1 stuff in the planning when we do stuff, because I used to be there's a kind of a thing that I want to make sure I watch because it's kind of the most important qualifying of the year. Yeah.
Yes, we did have some friends that were like, "Oh, earlier it's better," and I was like, "No, it can't be that early. I've got F1 to watch."
So, I don't know if we'll take any video of the golf. It'll be pretty pathetic, but anyway, it's really the first real round if we can all get out there of the season. So we're gonna be kicking some rust off for sure. All right. So when and where can you watch your F1 this weekend? Friday, ESPN Family and Networks, as well as F1 TV are your places if you are in the United States. Friday, FP1 kicks off 7:25 a.m. Eastern, ESPN2 or F1 TV. Friday FP2, 10:55 a.m. Eastern, ESPN2. These are pretty much the standard European times. Saturday FP3, 6:25 a.m. Eastern. That's going to be on ESPN2. Saturday qualifying. I've mentioned it's a thing, and it's going to be on big ESPN because of it. 9:55 a.m. Eastern. It is appointment television. If you don't watch any other part of Monaco, watch the qualifying. It's going to be drama-filled. There's going to be all sorts of stuff happening. It may last 2 hours. Who knows?
You're going to see camera shots of the turns where the cars are is close to the wall.
Yeah, yeah. That little Amazon advanced metrics thing is going to get ridiculous this weekend. As for Sunday for the race, big ABC free TV if you're in the U.S. So take advantage of that. There, take advantage of the fact that that's the closest thing you're going to get to live timing. So if you want to line up your timing screen with ABC's broadcast, you're going to be closer to the action of knowing what happens even before the folks on F1 TV get it. So it's a couple seconds, but to me it matters. But I'm like that way. All right. So that's kind of going to wrap up our Monaco talk. I've queued up the sound for our IndyCar thing. I don't know if it's going to play, but here we go.
You know what cracks me up is I've got my cat sitting next to me here. As soon as you start up that sound, the eyes went into the
That's what you should do. It means it's IndyCar time. The 109th running of the Indianapolis 500 is, of course, also usually follows. I mean, these usually coincide really well. Monaco ends. You see the podium. You get a couple post-race quotes. Make sure nobody's failed tech, and you go right into the IndyCar pre-race stuff, which the driver intros are awesome. People dancing around. You got Jim Neighbors singing, or people singing my Sweet Home in Indiana, a la Jim Neighbors from years ago. It's just full of Midwestern goodness. At least that's what it's supposed to be. And there are some great stories happening this week at the Indy 500. Robert Schwartzman from F2 is going to start on the pole. It's the first time an Indy 500 rookie has started on pole position since 1983. I was one. I don't remember it. Let's put it that way. And it's in Prema, a team that looked completely lost throughout all of the tests and even throughout the first couple practice sessions. Whatever they've done, they have figured out how to set up an Indy car, especially for qualifying, at least if nothing else. We have no idea what it's going to translate for race pace, but for qualifying, they've got that car dialed in, man. And Schwartzman did a hell of a job. It is a huge story, and congratulations to him. If he can convert it to a win, oh my gosh, talk about a career-changing move, just blow your mind. That's the good news. The not so good news concerns Team Penske and what's going on over there. And the drama is just dripping. I've said it before. There were big penalties that happened. They started out kind of small and they just sort of ballooned. So the 12 and the 2, and the 12 is Will Power, and the 2 car is Joseph Newgarden, also the defending race champion, were found to have used illegally modified attenuators, which is a part in the back of the car that basically is part of the crash structure. And I don't know if this modification translates to any sort of performance, but according to the IndyCar safety rules, you cannot modify them. And they were found to have been using attenuators that were modified. So they were pulled out of the Fast 12 on Sunday for the final qualifying. They were initially slotted in row 4, which would have put them around like 11th and 12th. Then they were pushed all the way to the back upon further review by IndyCar officials. That's one story. The next story is what happened when Roger Penske, of course, this is his team. He's the owner of the series. He owns the racetrack. And oh, by the way, he has an ownership stake in one of the teams. And one of his teams just got caught. I don't want to call it cheating, but they got caught outside the rules. Let's put it that way. And this is the second time that this has happened in subsequent years. The first one was a lot more blatant. The first one was the push to pass thing. And the push to pass thing I thought was cheating. This feels like they were just stupid. But stupid is as stupid does is kind of the rule. If you're outside the rules, you really, there's no defense to it. So the fact of the matter is Roger Penske came down and he laid down the hammer today. Strategists and presidents of the 12 and 2 car, which includes the big name is Tim Cindric, who, if you're a NASCAR fan, his son Austin races in NASCAR. They have been fired. Kyle Moyer, the chief referee of IndyCar, has been fired and will not be at the race this weekend and will be replaced in the flag stand this weekend as well. So a whole heap of drama. Roger Penske came down and basically said, we're not having this, even in my own backyard, especially in my own backyard. So if there were consequences to be had, they've been had. I think the people who are responsible have been identified and have been cut out. Now, the other part of this drama, which has also surfaced, Joseph Newgarden's car from the 2024 Indy 500 win is on display at the IMS Museum. If you look at the back and where the attenuator is, you will clearly see it has the same modification that they have been kicked out for. They've gone back and looked at some of these digital photos during the race, and it is pretty clear to anyone who's looked that the 12 and the 2 car had these technically illegally modified attenuators on their car last year. The CEO of IndyCar, who's I think his name is Doug Bowles, who also runs the circuit, for Penske Entertainment, has come out and said they're not going to revisit the results of the 2024 race. That championship is won. Those points have been awarded. They're not going to go back and try to take anything away from Joseph Newgarden at this point. What I would caution everybody, just because of the nature of anything, and whenever you hear scandal, cheating, it's easy to try to take things out on the driver. I do not believe in this case. The push to pass thing is something different. I actually think they kind of maybe knew what they were doing about that. But in this case, there is absolutely no evidence to suggest that either Will Power or Joseph Newgarden knew what the guys were doing to the back of the car on a part that does not necessarily, do anything performance. So as much as the mob, the internet mob, wants to go out and do the internet mob thing and try to cancel these guys, I would urge you to take a step back. They are human beings. And just remember, if you were in that situation, how would you want to be treated? That's all I'm going to say about it. If you want to voice your opinion on it, that's fine. I'm not going to be somebody who's going to be able to stop you. But I don't think it's right. I'm not going to say anything negative about Joseph Newgarden or Will Power because I think they are just caught in the middle of all of this. Why these attenuators were modified even in the beginning, I have no idea. It doesn't sound like, from everything I've read, that it leads to any sort of performance gain. Apparently, it was supposed to make the car look better. So, because otherwise you saw two distinct parts and they wanted to blend them together so the carbon fiber looked cooler. If that's the case, then that's just freaking stupid.
Yeah.
But you should have checked, and apparently, the IndyCar has all these message boards and stuff that you can ask the officials, can I do this? And nobody asked. And to me, that's just stupid. So I guess this is analysis paralysis on a preview episode to the Penske team for being a la stupid, because I think that's kind of my take on it. But Cody, I hope I've set this up for you. What you got on this?
I'll start with the Penske stuff first. So I agree with you that you shouldn't go bashing the drivers for this. They, as you said, they might not have even known that these parts were changed, or they might not have really realized that it was against the rules. Clearly the rest of the Penske team didn't know it was against the rules, or they didn't care. So I'm not going to put this on the drivers. Certainly not going to detract from Joseph Newgarden's Indy 500 wins. If it didn't even really give him a performance boost, like, in my eyes, those, his last couple wins, they're totally legitimate. They involve some really awesome moves. Like, not really sure how he's going to do it, but I think it would be really cool for him to get the third in a row, which would make him the first ever for that to happen again.
Coming from P33 on the grid, so that would be a thing.
Hey, you never know.
He might just do it too.
There's been some weird shit that's happened here. Like, never know.
You get a good pit stop cycle, and all of a sudden you're right back up there.
That said, I do understand why the strategists and presidents of those two cars have been fired, because it really is damaging Penske's reputation that they've run into they've run afoul of the rules 2 consecutive years now. They got, what was it? I think it was Joseph Newgarden and it was not Will Power. Will Power got a penalty for last year. The beginning of last year, I think it was Joseph Newgarden and it was
and McLaughlin.
Yeah, McLaughlin.
It's the other car.
Yeah, they got.
Yeah, Will Power was the one who had it but didn't use it.
Yeah, exactly. So they got disqualified from that race last year, and now they're not getting disqualified from the Indy 500, but they're starting from the back, which is pretty bad. We just kind of gotten to the part where we were forgetting about what they did last year and how that made them look, which was really bad. And now we've got this happening. So I'm sure Roger Penske is really not happy that his team is making him look really bad, especially when he's in charge of the whole thing now. So I can understand him putting the hammer down, as you said. But really going back to the good story from this, Robert Schwartzman getting pole. It's Prema's first year in IndyCar, and while they have been a very good team in the junior series of Formula One, they have not started off very well in IndyCar at all. They're lucky if they can make it to the end of the race. So to have this happen, it's Robert Schwartzman's first time on an oval. Uh, Not to mention it's the IndyCar track, which is not your average oval. It's a big rectangle. It's very strange for its drivers. So for him to go out and put it on pole is awesome. Um, to any of you who don't watch IndyCar, the Indy 500 pole is kind of interesting. Not only is it the bracketeering thing, kind of like what they do in Formula One, where slower drivers get eliminated. But for your time, it's not actually a time per se. You go out, you do 4 laps, and it's an average of your speed over those 4
Right.
laps. So Robert
Yeah.
Schwartzman was the fastest car on average over 4 laps in terms of speed. Um, watching them celebrate after that was secured was really something to see. I got to imagine it's going to be an interesting start for him because Indy 500 start is weird as it is. First of all, in IndyCar, they do rolling
It's
starts,
3.
and it's 3 wide at the Indy 500, which is kind of a
And
one-off thing.
your front row is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Schwartzman's on the inside. The ageless wonder of Takuma Sato, who came out of nowhere, put himself in a car and went P2, starts in the middle. And Pato O'Ward, who's finished second in the last 2 years and was in contention to finish close to the podium, if not winning the thing in a third year, is on the outside of row 1. So the row 1, it's just dripping. You got stories all over the place. You got great stories all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Any one of those guys could easily win it. Any one of those guys could easily have a problem. It's going to be, it's a great watch. Despite all of this negative drama and the negative story around it, the good news is I think the grandstands have sold out for the first time in like 10 years. IndyCar is probably in the strongest place it's ever been. I have warmed up to the Fox broadcasts. They've gotten better as they've kind of learned how to do this. And coming into their biggest event, I thought they actually nailed the qualifying coverage. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. I thought Will Buxton, while always being very excitable, was appropriately excitable because he was doing it at the right times. And you can be excitable and you can be yelling and screaming if it's appropriate. Just don't do it when it's like, the end of Q1 or something like that. But
Got that vein
so
popping in his side of his
right,
head all the
like there's a time and a place for all of that. But there was a time and a place when Robert Schwartzman got pole. That was a time and a place to be excited. So and excited he was. So I'm going to look forward to it. Any other thoughts? I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, just that with the way things are going, we're going to see Alex Palou win his first Indy 500 because he's won just about everything else so far this year. I think he's won every race but one, and in that other race he finished second. He is on the
Correct.
form of his career. Normally we don't see this kind of dominance in a spec series. And to be fair, in IndyCar, yes, it's a spec series, but really there's 2 dominant teams, and that's Penske and Ganassi, and he drives for one of those teams. But even still, like, it's unbelievable form. It's really something to see. And the one thing that he hasn't gotten yet is an oval win. And
that's true.
I'm sure he would love to get his first oval win at the oval. So
gap he pulled at the Indy road course race after the safety car hit, Pato O'Ward's right on his ass in the first lap. And then the second lap, the gap is here. And then the third lap, the gap is here. And it's just to see 2 guys, actually, they were both going flat out, but to see what a 1 second difference in lap time looks like in real time was fascinating to me because I'd never really seen that before. Where it was like, and this is at the front. This wasn't like in the back. This wasn't coming up on a lap traffic guy getting blue flags or something like that. These were 2 guys going for it. And yeah, I mean, it could be drama, Palou wins everything type of thing. Deanna used to say that all the time. It would be, Red Bull drama, Mercedes wins everything back in the day. So, we'll see if that's going to be the case here. But it's going to be a fascinating thing. It's on your Fox family of networks. It's on free TV on Fox. It will kick off approximately like right as Monaco stuff ends up. So Monaco is going to start about 8 in the morning in Chicago for us. It'll go to about maybe 8, 9:30, 10. And then right as the podium is kind of ending and you get your post-race stuff done, flip on over. And like I said, you can enjoy another 4 or 5 hours worth of motorsport. And then if you really want to go nuts and you want to watch NASCAR, Kyle Larson is going to do the double, by the way. He is starting in this race. He's going to hopefully finish it and then get on a helicopter and fly down to Charlotte and compete in the 600. So he's got a long, long day ahead of him. So we'll see kind of how that goes for him. So lots of stories, lots of good stuff. Check it out. IndyCar.com is a great resource to read up on stuff. Marshall Pruitt is one of the better sources of information. I've been glued to his feed this week with all of the drama going on. There's an independent reporter by the name of David Land, who's also pretty good. I enjoy his stuff very much as well. So, all right. So I think we are now all set up for Monaco. We are all set up for the Indy 500. It's going to be, hopefully, it's the best weekend in motorsport of the year. Enjoy it. We will be back hopefully on Sunday night to break it all down. We might take a break and do Monday night. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see kind of how we're doing. See kind of how we're all feeling. But we'll go from there. But we will definitely be back to recap this incredible weekend. So as always, folks, may all your laps be fast.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Outlap F1 podcast. If you like what you heard, click that subscribe button and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. If you want to connect with us outside of the show, check out our website at www.outlapf1.com. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at OutlapF1 Podcast, or email us at chatnow@outlapf1.com. As always, thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you on the next one.